this Saturday was a deeply sad day for English football as we lost the great Sir Bobby Charlton at the age of 86. And Sir Bobby obviously was arguably Manchester United and England's greatest ever player, winning the World Cup in 1966 and the European Cup just 2 years later. His death's felt across the football world, and especially within the Manchester United family. So before we discuss any of this weekend's football, first let's reflect on the life of one of football's true greats, I think it's fair to say. And I'm actually joined by Dave today, fittingly a fellow Manchester United fan. Dave, really sad weekend for the game, but especially for those associated with United, isn't it? His life is kind of entwined with the history of the club, and whenever you kind of learn about it as a fan, his name is everywhere, isn't it, across the club's history, right from the good times all the way through to the darkest times of the Munich air tragedy. And it all stems from Sir Bobby, doesn't it? This Man United way, and his impact on the game and non-United is going to be felt forever, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's obviously a massive loss, and I think a day that probably a lot of fans have been dreading. And obviously, with the recent news, Lady Cathy Ferguson obviously passing away as well. There's a lot of kind of sorrow around the club at the minute, and it's just crazy, really, very surreal to see the news in itself. He's obviously a massive figure at United, and it's just going to be so strange to not see him in the crowd at Old Trafford anymore, because he was at the majority of home games, obviously along with Sir Alex, and it's just going to be a massive miss. Obviously, the history that he's left behind him is, it's unprecedented in terms of we'll probably never see the likes of his kind again. Obviously, you speak about others who have obviously scored his amount of goals. The only closest to him, obviously, is Rooney, who obviously broke his record. But he's got to be probably the greatest United player.
Yeah, I think that's easy to say, isn't it? Because of his, not just his on the pitch exploits for the club during some of its darkest times, and obviously emerging from the Munich air tragedy and the Busby Babes, and half of that exceptional young team being wiped out. Not only that, but recovering from it to win the European Cup 10 years later. That United team was a pioneer of English clubs in Europe. So for that alone, I think he stands tall in the history books. But then also off the field, has been an ambassador for Manchester United ever since retirement. And as you say, almost one of those figures that you always expect to see in the stands for United. And I've seen all the players coming out in tribute to him now. It feels like he was there at the signing of some of their most important contracts. And Rashford said the same when he signed professional terms with the club. There was Bobby Charlton in the background of his photo. So yeah, he's intrinsically linked with the history of the club. And I mean, for me, when I first was introduced to the game in the early 90s, showing my age there, he was still very much a big ambassador for the club. And he was at the ground every home game. And I remember my dad being a United fan and being hooked during the era of Best, Law and Charlton. And I think a lot of people my age remember or are told about Sir Bobby Charlton from that era, the United Trinity, the statue outside the ground, and how big a part of the club he was then. But really sad loss for the club, I think.
I think they're organising something for Copenhagen midweek again at Old Trafford, because I think we're at home on Tuesday. But it's one of those stories, isn't it, of those players. I don't think actually enough people kind of realise that, the sort of the things that he's been through as a person. Obviously, you say about the Munich air disaster. It's moving to hear sort of the stories that he speaks of, obviously, when he went through that, and kind of the years following in the recovery of the club after that. He's always fascinating to listen to. I saw something on social media the other day. There was a video of him training with the '99 team on the eve of the final against Bayern Munich at the new camp, and see him like training with the team. I thought it was great to see. Just some real memories, really, and obviously he's going to go down. He's down in history, but I mean, it's just great. It's so raw, I think, at the minute, because it almost doesn't seem real in a way, because you just so, like I say, you're so used to just see him in and around the club, and like you mentioned, it's not just his time as a player, but he's always wanted to be involved with the club for a long time, and he has done ever since he ended his playing career, and it's just not obviously going to be the same. But I think it will. I'm hoping it takes. I think sometimes like these kind of events for people not familiar with him as much as as a player, but as a person. But for them to kind of do some more digging, bit of research into sort of his background, and I suppose discovering sort of his his magnificence as a person, as a player, and just how good he actually was. Because it's easy. I'm still too young really to have seen obviously a great deal of him, but there's obviously the footage out there to see him, how good he was as a player. But it's always great to hear him speak, and that's what I enjoy to hear myself, just from the man himself. And I think especially Sir Alex as well have just got this great kind of way of talking, and this, you're just very engrossed in listening to every word that they've got to say. And it's definitely gonna be kind of looking into a little bit more, and just obviously his story, and hopefully there'll be some documentaries coming out, because it'd be nice to kind of see a bit more tributes. But it's like we're seeing all over the world, like everyone speaking. I know obviously Beckham's come out and mentioned how big a figure he was for him from a young age, and he was the reason that he came to Manchester United. That just says it all, really, about the kind of.
But no, an absolute monster of a man on and off the pitch. And his goal scoring record, as you say, was only surpassed by Wayne Rooney for club and for country. And I was always struck by how humble he was, Sir Bobby Charlton, about being overtaken and the record being broken, because you could forgive many people for feeling quite bitter about such a long-standing record being smashed. But no, he was full of praise and admiration for Rooney, which was great to see, the baton being passed on and acknowledgement of another fantastic player taking his place at the top of the game. So really graceful, humble guy, and a pillar of the Manchester United community who will be absolutely sorely missed. So from the Football Diary podcast to the Charlton family, our condolences go to you.